Worst police officer I've ever worked with? No doubt it is this police constable whom I've forgotten his name. But the name is in my manuscript. What can you say about an officer who makes another officer be jailed for no offense of at all? And then the same officer, as if making one officer be jailed is not enough, he makes another officer who was a recruit. By recruit I mean 2 years after completing Kiganjo, you are still considered a recruit. He makes a recruit be sacked. I'll talk about him, the two instances, in full detail. I'm very poor in summarizing things. This officer, whom I've forgotten his name, was based at Nauyapong. Nauyapong in kilometers is just the same distance as Nakuru, Nairobi. But Nakuru, Nairobi is a highway. That one is a very rough road, which you can take, at least those days you could take up to 9 hours to reach Nauyapong. And the vehicle used to go there twice a month. The first vehicle was to pay the police officers, general duty police officers, and the other one to pay the administration police officers. So if you found yourself in Kapenguria, let's say a day, if you are from leave or course or court or anything, and you reached Kapenguria on a day after the vehicle had left, you'll just hang around for 29 days until the next pay parade that you'll go to the police post. It was in such an occasion that he let the other officer be jailed. Now this is what happened. Those days, when you worked at Nauyapong, which I later worked, of course, and you found yourself in Kapenguria, you would be given simple jobs which you'll not... They were very careful with us, because you arrest somebody goes to court, you'll not go to your police post, you'll deal with the case until it ends. So you used to be given these small duties where your contact with the civilians was very minimal. This was to avoid for you to have cases, and you may be needed in the police post. So somehow there was a vehicle that had an accident. A GK vehicle had an accident. I'll tell you how that accident happened, because people complained about my meandering. So there was a GK vehicle that had an accident north of Kapenguria at a place called Kamatira. So it had an accident and it was pulled to Kapenguria police station. While at Kapenguria police station, this police officer had stalled the battery. And you see, those days there was no electricity in Kapenguria. So he stalled the battery, and the battery had been written GK number of that vehicle. So since he was somebody who is on outpost, he was staying in our friend's place, in a friend's tent. The friend had a stereo radio cassette. Stereo used to have 2 speakers. Today's stereo can be called a woofer. And I'm told woofer, there are those woofers with 5 speakers. I don't know whether there are even more, but imagine 5 speakers, woofer. But during our time it was a stereo with 2 speakers, and it used to be so good. So he stole and brought it, and they started playing on this person. Let me call it woofer. They played on it. And let me tell you how it is. You see, those days there was no electricity in Kapenguria. There was no electricity. So we used to use dry cells. And for you to buy dry cells, you had to buy them at 50 shillings. That one would last a day or 2. On the second day, it will not play the cassettes, but it will only play the radio. But if you had a battery, car battery, you would charge it and use the woofer, let me call it woofer. You'd use your radio cassette for a whole month. So for the whole month, It is the tent of this fellow that music would always come from. Then these people who had the road accident completed their case, and they were told to take the vehicle. When they were taking their vehicle, they discovered that there was no battery. And in the police service, most police officers are sacked because of their fellow police officers. So somebody hinted that it is in so and so's tent. A cordon and search was done. The whole camp was surrounded by senior police officers, and people were told not to leave their houses or tents. And when they checked, they found the battery within the same number plates of that vehicle in the tent belonging to this other fellow. So when he was asked how he got the battery, he said this police officer brought it. And then the fellows told him the way police officers, especially in the general duties, in the AP, you touch one AP, you have touched everybody, starting from the DIG to the recruits in Embakasi. But in the police general duties, you have a case wanakuambia kufa kifo chako. So when this fellow stole the battery from the police station, you know the vehicles that got accidents, they are there at the police station. When it was discovered that it was in the tent, and the owner of the tent was asked how he got it, he said that this one is the one who gave me, and he was told by the thief, kufa kifo chako. So this fellow went through a court case, and he was jailed. And I remember after he was jailed, we police officers, especially when we were on patrol, we agreed that anything you get on patrol, you share a half with his wife and kid. His wife and kid moved from that tent, went and hired a room in Makutano, and we used to go there. When we were at Makutano, we are doing beat and patrol. Whatever we got, we could go to her house. And we made it sure, so we were so quick that when we arrived, we could give half of what we had collected during our patrol and leave immediately. Because she would prepare tea. And you see, preparing tea means that she's reducing the sugar that we had. And we felt that that was our wife and that was our kid. That was the first case. And you see, when you are leaving Kapenguria, going northward, there is a decline called Kamatira. That is where the Land Rover, the GK vehicle, rolled and was brought. So that is the first case. So for about 3 or 4 years, every police officer hated him. You find, I don't know whether you have come across a system, I've also heard that, where you meet people are talking, you go there, then they keep quiet and everybody start going away one by one. So that is how he was being treated. Later on, he completed his time in Nauyapo. He made a few transfers here and there, because the transfers were 6 months each. And later he ended up at Marich Pass. Now Marich Pass, for those of you who don't know, it is not very far from where General Ogola fell and died. Because you go to the north, you go to Kainuk, where General Ogola boarded the plane for the last time. And you go towards the east, towards the border with Elgeyo Marakwet, you get Cheptulel High School. I left it when it was a primary school. Cheptulel High School is where he General Ogola last took off before dying, before having the accident. So he was taken to Marich Pass. The last time I checked, Marich Pass was a police station headed by OCS called Barnabas Chumo. But during the time when I was there, it was a patrol base. It was not even a police post, it was a patrol base. You see, the smallest police formation is called a patrol base, which can be changed and what. So nowadays it's a police station. So what happened was that he was there, and the APs had arrested a lorry crew with maize. They were transporting maize. I can tell the millenniums that saa zingine mi ukaa pahali na shangaa, is this is it really Kenya that I used to stay, or it is another Kenya? There was a time when you farm, you have your 40 or 50 bags, you cannot move from one county to another county. It used to be called districts, but nowadays it's called counties. You could not bring a lorry, place there your 50 bags of maize and go to sell it wherever. You could not buy a bundle of rice without a letter from the DC. If you had a lorry full of maize and you wanted to take it to another district or county, as it is called now, you had to go to the district commissioner's office, get a letter, a permit, so that every roadblock, and the permit says you're transporting maize from Kitale to Nairobi. So every roadblock had two types of police officers. The general duties, the so-called police officers, Kenya Police, their real name is general duties. The general duties will be performing the traffic duties. Is your vehicle good tires? Have you been overspeeding? Your traffic issues. But then after they are through with you, then they would step aside, then the APs would come to check if you are carrying rice, one bundle or more, if you are carrying maize, with rice and maize without the letter from the district commissioner, nowadays called county commissioner. If you didn't, they arrest you. But there is something that we were taught from Kiganjo and everywhere, that if you are a general duty police officer in the police station, any other person with arresting powers, well, if they arrest somebody, don't release that person. For example, somebody has been arrested having leopard skin. He has been arrested by game department. Nowadays, game department is called KWS. Don't ask me what KWS is. So KWS have arrested somebody. They are brought to your police station. If they want to do anything, yours is only to facilitate their lawyers to visit him. You have to facilitate the families to bring food and such a thing. But you cannot decide to release them. They go there and say, sasa hii polisi wanahongwa na sisi hatuna cell in. So we were taught and told, if somebody has been arrested by Kenya Forest Services because he has been handling wood illegally, let the officer in charge of KFS come and deal with it. If it is KW, if it is AP. But then here was APs at Marichpas had arrested somebody who was traveling with maize, several bags of maize. Then they took, because APs have never had cells, although the National Police Service has now gazetted all AP camps Kenya-wide to be police stations, so you can be arrested and be detained in AP camps. But those days, anybody, there were only 3 people during my time who had cells. We had the Kenya Police, we had the prisons, and we had the military police. Anybody else, you take it there. So these people, the AP brought people to the cells and placed them there. That is at the police patrol base. And the corporal who was in charge felt that the lorry with maize staying at that place for long, people may come and steal. So he decided that the lorry be taken to Kapenguria. So he assigned the worst police officer I'm talking about, he assigned him duty to escort that vehicle with a recruit, a person who has not even completed a year since he completed his course in Kiganjo. So he assigned them both to take them. But then this fellow was just telling, Afande, hii kitu, tukule tu na tuachilie lorry. But the corporal was still remembering the case of if anybody else. You see, if you are the OCS and a constable or a corporal or even an inspector arrests somebody, places him in your cell, as an OCS you have power to release that person. But the law says, it used to say and it still says, that the only person who can order for the release of a person from police cells is the OCS. But the unwritten law here is, if the person has been arrested by KWS because he had a lion's skin, or he had a sandalwood and he has been arrested by Kenya Forest, the decision to release that person comes from the in charge of KWS or KFS. It is only after the KWS or whatever has written a letter to the OCS saying that you can now release that person, is when the OCS now releases that person and retains the letter to show that those people have done that. So this fellow tried to talk to the corporal who was in charge of patrol base, but today Marich Pass is a police station. So the corporal said, no, you people will just travel with it. Then the driver was released. The driver was, okay, we can call it released. The driver and his standboy were released, and they were told they were being escorted by 2 police officers to Kapenguria police station. Nowadays it's a bit dangerous or whatever, because at Kamatira or any other place the driver can decide to spoil or whatever, interfere with that vehicle. But you see, those were desert places and there were no people there towards Turkana. So things were that way with Afanyika Kienyeji. So as they were going, this bad police officer stayed in the front with the driver, and the recruit and the tanboy stayed at the back. So as they were traveling, he was negotiating with the driver on how much to be given. The driver had 500. So he said, and this one stuck to 1,000. That is one of the problems that police officers are arrested. Being given a bribe and then you are told tomorrow, kuja nikupatie ingine. You'll either get IPOA and corruption, internal affair unit, or the person will talk to a former police officer like me and a trap will be laid. But this fellow, they agreed that he'd be given 500. And remember, 500, at that time my salary was 800. The salary was 885. After the statutory deduction, it was 815. So it is 800. Remember, he was given 500 and promised the following day at Chepareria he would be given the remaining 500. So they reached somewhere on the way. Then they stopped the vehicle. He called the recruit and said, Corporal alisema gari kifika hapa hata tunaweza waachilia waende. So they boarded another vehicle, went back. He went back to the corporal and said, Afande, nimepewa hii 500. He wanted to give the corporal 300 and he remains with 200. So that the following day he can go there and collect the 500. So he ends up with 700, the corporal ends up with 300. But the corporal thinks that the corporal has 300 and he has 200. But when the corporal saw that, he said, wewe na hiyo moto uliwasha juu yako. He went and talked to Kapenguria. Kapenguria went and laid a roadblock at a place called Murgojit. Murgojit is the last station before you start entering Trans Nzoia. Then the lorry was caught there. The 2 people were caught. The CID, by then Kapenguria, West Pokot did not have a CID. Turkana had, but no, Turkana also didn't have. The CID in Kitale used to operate in West Pokot and Turkana. So the following day, CID officers from Kitale came, and as he was receiving the 500, treated money. That is when he was arrested. Now there was a kizungumukuti. Does he go to jail? If he goes to jail, the recruit will also go to jail because they were assigned the work together. Is he sacked? Yes, the recruit will also be sacked because they were. So it was decided that since they were joined together, the 2 of them, they were to be sacked. A recruit who didn't even know what was happening, he was sacked. Let me tell you one thing before I say bye. The hardest period for a police officer is the first year. From the day the police officer graduated from Kiganjo to the same day the following year, that is the hardest time in a police officer's life. So they both ended. Even though I say he's the worst police officer, I also blame the corporal. Why did he assign him while knowing that he had already had a bad history, and also he was also pushing for the 500 for the bribe? So if the corporal would have assigned him with an askari who had a longer period and whatever, the askari would have refused that, and that action would have been taken against this police officer alone. I think without any doubt, without any fear of contradiction, I think that is the worst police officer I've ever worked with.